large trebuchet required dozens of men to operate and could launch stones weighing over 100 kilograms over distances of up to 300 meters. Like earlier designs, it consisted of a long wooden arm mounted on a heavy frame, pivoting around a central axle. At the shorter end of the arm was a large hinged wooden box, typically filled with stones, acting as a counterweight. The longer end carried a sling holding the projectile. At the base of the frame was a guide chute, which supported the projectile in the sling before each shot. To prepare for launch, the long end of the arm was pulled downward using a winch, raising the counterweight into the air. Once in position, a locking lever held the arm in place. The winch ropes were then detached and set aside. The projectile was placed into the sling, resting on the guide chute. To launch, a rope attached to the locking lever was pulled. This released the counterweight, which dropped under gravity. As it fell, it drove the short end of the arm downward, causing the long end to swing upward with tremendous speed. The sling accelerated forward, releasing the projectile toward the target. Trebuchets could weaken a castle through repeated strikes, but thick stone walls were built to withstand punishment. So attackers often turned to another way of bringing them down, not by breaking through the wall, but by digging beneath it. One of the most effective methods of breaching a castle's defenses was undermining. Sappers, or workers, dug tunnels beneath the walls, supporting them temporarily with wooden props. These supports were then set on fire, using brushwood and other combustible materials to intensify the flames, causing the tunnel to collapse, and with it, the section of wall above. This created a breach for attackers to enter the castle. Defenders sometimes counter this by digging their own tunnels to intercept or collapse the attacker's work. In castles protected by water-filled moats, mining became far more difficult, as water seepage could flood the tunnels before they reached their target. By the 14th century, a new weapon began to change the balance of siege warfare. Large-caliber cannons, known as bombards, started to appear. Unlike earlier engines, these weapons used gunpowder to fire heavy projectiles, delivering far greater destructive power than even the largest trebuchets. Early bombards launched massive stone balls, sometimes weighing over 100 kilograms, before later transitioning to iron shot. They were typically mounted on heavy wooden frames set directly on the ground, with the rear braced by timber to absorb the force of recoil. To protect the crew, the cannon was positioned behind wooden mantlets, shielding them from incoming projectiles. In front of the weapon, a hinged wooden shield could be raised to fire, then lowered again to protect the crew as they reloaded. By the 15th century, the increasing power of these weapons began to render traditional siege weapons, and the tactics built around them, obsolete. But breaking into a castle was only half the story. The real challenge was that castles were not just walls. They were layered systems, filled with controlled entry points, elevated firing positions, and built-in defense mechanisms designed to turn every step forward into a deadly mistake.